What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here in the studio. It is North London Derby week. It is Wednesday, so we've got quite a few days of anticipation building up to the big game on Sunday.
Nervous yet?
No,
Excited?
I'm excited. I really am excited.
Come on.
For the last couple of years, I've been dreading this fixture. I really have. And it's probably not something that one of our commenters in here wants to hear. But yeah, I'm gearing up. I think it's set to be a classic this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the injuries that Arsenal have sustained has given an element of positivity, I think, for a lot of the fans going into this game, that we can actually, do something we haven't done since 2022 under Conte, which actually beat Arsenal, especially our own stadium, on the run of two straight defeats, which you actually come to think of it, when was the last time we lost two in a row?
Not for a long time.
Because before we lost in 2023, the last defeat was 10 years before that, or 9 years before that.
I'll tell you, the last time we've lost two in a row at home in a North London derby.
And before that, we probably went a while without losing as well. Before that loss, the last time we lost.
God, I can't see here any time that we've lost two in a row. Back to 1989.
1989, wow.
1989, we didn't lose two in a row. I'm saying that's when the records in Flash Score begins. And we haven't lost two in a row ever since then.
So it's a disgrace on this run. It's an absolute disgrace.
Of course it's a disgrace. Of course it's a disgrace. But it's time to put it right this weekend.
We can't let them do three in a row. We cannot let them do three in a row.
What better time, though? Odegaard out. Rice out. Marino, their new signing, who they thought was going to be a first-choice player, out. So, Arsenal have been running their luck with injuries probably ever since Saliba got injured at the back end of 2 seasons ago. And I feel like they haven't really had important players out for a prolonged amount of time. And to have them Rice, Odegaard, Marino, potentially Gabriel Jesus as well, all in one go, I think it's a big loss for them.
It is, but you look at the team that they potentially could still put out, and it's still a very good team. A lot of experience, a lot of quality. You've still got Partey, you've still got Jorginho in there, who's a very experienced player. You've got probably Sterling potentially coming in the front three, who's a dangerous player. So as much as these players will be a big miss for them, I don't see this being like they're going to come up and be rubbish now. It's still going to be a good Arsenal team. It's still a team. Look, they're still favourites. Even with these injuries, they're still favourites going into this game, and you have to respect that. And I think we still have fallibilities, on the counter-attack, defensively, all that kind of stuff. But what really gives me hope isn't necessarily the injuries. Even without the injuries, the reason why I'd still have hope is because of how we played last year against them. I know we lost 3-2. I know it was a really bad defeat at the time. We were 3-0 down going to the second half. But you watch that game back, we were well on top of them that game. We were well in that game. That game could have gone a very different direction if things went differently. Højbjerg scores an own goal. We don't get a penalty, and they score from that counter-attack where we should have had a penalty. Obviously, they score another set piece a bit after that, but we've changed how we're doing our set pieces, it looks like, this season. We're defending them in a different way. Hopefully that will stand us in good stead when we're combating with these set pieces. We're going to have Solanke hopefully in the team. We're going to have a Doggy instead of Ben Davis at left back. We're going to have one of Basuma or Bentancur in the 6 rather than having Højbjerg in the 6. We're hopefully, in my opinion, going to have Decky in the midfield. So it's going to be a very different makeup for Spurs. It's going to be much hopefully, I think these fine margins could make a difference when it comes to this game. Adding to the fact they got injuries as well, hopefully that plays into our favour. But I still see Arsenal, being up for this game. They know what a massive opportunity it is to, if they can get a win in this game, that really puts them back on track this season in terms of their title charge after a draw against Brighton. They did scrape a win against Villa, but they'll see this as if they know if they get a big win in this game, then what a statement that would be.
However, on the other flip side of it, if we do go and beat them, and then suddenly they're winless in 2 games with Man City away coming around the corner, how detrimental in this early stage of the season can that be for their title charge?
If we get a win, I think it could be a serious reality check for them. Serious reality check if we get a win, and then going to Man City the next week as well. in terms of how realistic it will be to win a title this season. I think if we can beat them and if we put in a really good performance, I think, I think a lot of Arsenal fans are already complaining about what they haven't done in the window potentially. They've already drawn with Brighton as well. They didn't look so good away to Aston Villa. If we can just get that win, dent their confidence, dent this kind of this feeling they have around the club that they're destined to challenge for another title. We need to give them that reality check this weekend, and that'll be so big. And there's no better place to do it than at our ground.
100%, 100%. And I'm just looking at what an impact those two players specifically have on their team, Rice and Odegaard. I feel like when Odegaard doesn't play, they're not ticking as maybe like he's like kind of the gel, and he always leads the press, and he's such an important player for them. They're captain. He runs the most miles out of everyone in the team. Such a tenacious player, such a creative player. They lose a lot without him in the team. And Declan Rice as well. You saw when Declan Rice went off injured in the game that we played against them last season at the Emirates, right at the start of the season. We ripped them to shreds in that second half when Declan Rice was on the pitch. We made Jorginho go back to the old age pensioners' home. You know what I mean? Like, Bissouma absolutely ran riot on that pitch without Declan Rice. So those two players...
They didn't have Partey, though.
It's true, they didn't have Partey. But as well, like, Thomas Partey, I don't think he's the player he was. And I feel like he needs... a big runner next to him to make up the yards that he can't do anymore. Because I feel like injuries have taken its toll on Thomas Partey. He's good on the ball, but... I do feel like he's lost quite a bit of his legs over the past year. There's a reason why, they don't want to extend that contract. Maybe there's other situations going on in the background as well, like we all know about. But I do take some confidence of them having a double pivot of Partey and Jorginho.
Me too. And I think that's why if they're playing in that midfield with, don't know who they're going to put in the third position to replace Odegaard, they might drop Havertz back, maybe put someone else up front.
And Havertz hasn't been good in midfield for them.
He's not. Yeah, he hasn't been the best in midfield. I think we have to be brave and just go with Decky and Maddison. That's what I would do, and really go for them, because if they're going to sit in that low block, and if they're going to try and frustrate us, like they did last year, they just dropped down. They dropped down into that low block. They did their best to make sure that they're not giving Son that space that we know that he loves. If we've got Solanke starting up front, we need to make sure that we've got someone like Decky and Maddison together, unlocking that door. And it could leave us a bit open going the other way. But without Odegaard, do I trust that they've got someone to unlock the door in midfield like they would have if he's playing? I don't know. So if we really can just pen them in, press them like we did last season, play those two players, really go for it, that's what I would do. Having
said that, it was Havertz, wasn't it, that played that unbelievable pass that just tore our defence apart to Saka, wasn't it?
He was playing up front, but yeah.
Yeah, he dropped deep, and we should never have let him have that space, that freedom of the central areas, but he's got it in his locker to play those balls, doesn't he?
I mean, that's probably one of the only times I've seen them. But yeah, he clearly does. He got that assist, and it was a really good pass. But then that, in that situation, it left Saka on 1-on-1 with Ben Davies, didn't it?
True.
And that was always going to be a difficult situation for us. But with the doggy there, not saying, it's still not a dangerous situation, but I think a doggy's better equipped to deal with that than Ben Davies is.
Who was out for us in that game? So we had a doggy out. Was Van de Ven out as well? Or Van de Ven played?
No, our lineup was Vicario in goal, Davis, Van de Ven, Romero, Porro, Højbjerg, Bentancur and Maddison, with Werner, Son and Kulusevski on the right.
So it will be a much improved team, when especially if we need Van de Ven and Solanke to be playing in this game. They are massive for us in this game, particularly, well, both of them I think are just as important at other ends of the pitch. I mean, when you're saying Arsenal are going to defend deep, they're going to stick in their formation and then try and counter on us and the space that we leave, that's where Van de Ven is going to come alive. And we need Dom Solanke, as opposed to his debut, to take his chances. If we take our chances, because we will get chances in this game, if we take our chances, I really believe we go on and win this game.
Yeah, we need him to take his chances, but also we need him to do what Son couldn't do last year, which is get the ball and hold it up and actually physically compete with Gabriel and Saliba. I felt like last game, the last time, Son was, obviously he was good with his pressing and he was getting involved, but as soon as we get the ball to him, and if he's anywhere near Saliba and Gabriel, it's game over. Like they can just win the ball off him, and he can't hold it up, and he's not good with his back to goal. Solanke's a different force. I know I saw Solanke last season give Saliba and Gabriel a real tough game. They struggle to deal with him physically, and that was for a Bournemouth team who aren't going to have the possession that we're going to have. And I think if we can just get Solanke to pen them back a bit, open up that space for the likes of Maddison and Kulusevski to operate in, I think that could really make a big difference. Even if Solanke's not scoring, I think he could really make a big difference to our overall play. I really believe that.
They always say, like, the old cliche that form goes out the window in a North London derby, but I just never feel that's the case. I feel like the form team, usually before the last 2 years, it's always been the home team that has always come out on top, or you never really lost at home. It's usually been a draw or a win. But obviously last 2 years, Arsenal have been the much better side. So, I mean, that form goes out the window is kind of rubbish, isn't it?
Well, last season, were they the better side? I know they got the results. But obviously, they've been the better side.
I mean, they ran Man City 2 points to the end of the season.
No, I'm not talking about overall. I'm saying in the games.
No, I'm just saying they're saying form goes out the window, and Arsenal were the better team on form, and they won the
I
game.
see what you mean. Yeah. Of course, they were the better team last year. I'm saying in the North London derbies, you could argue we were the better team over both games. But we would, and it didn't go our way.
It's always such a difficult game. Whenever Spurs go to Arsenal, whether Arsenal come to Spurs, even those years when we were mid-table mediocrity, fighting for relegation, all that kind of stuff, we always gave, and that was the Arsenal unbeatables, and
we always
gave them a big game, always. So I do feel like even in that period, though, we always gave them a good game, but we rarely beat them, didn't we? It was always the form team, usually over the course of the 2 games, did come out on top.
If we can just take the lead in this game, I think that'll be so big.
Agreed.
So big, not just chasing them all the time, not always looking to catch up results. If we get the first goal, get the crowd on it, get the fans up for it. If we start early and just get an opening goal, I think that can make the world of difference.
The fans need to be bang up for it, because I felt like you go back to the 3-0. 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, that 2-0?
2022.
Under Conte. Like, the fans would just bang up for it. You just went, as soon as you stepped foot on the high road, you knew you were in for a big day. As soon as you knew, and then the news came out with Romero and all the murmuring started going about. Then you got into the stadium and the atmosphere was just insane. As Gary Neville, what did he say? They brutalised the Arsenal team for 90 minutes. And that's what we need again, because I don't think we've seen that kind of an atmosphere in the stadium since then, particularly against Arsenal. And I felt like last year, you go 1-0 down, you go 2, you're 3-0 down by half time, and you're thinking, God, what is it going to happen? We've actually put on a show second half and got 2 goals back, and could have even levelled it up at some stage, but the atmosphere never reached anywhere near the heights of that 3-0 win. So the fans need to play their part massively on the weekend. And I know I'm going to probably say another cliche that they can act as the 12th man, but I really believe that when the Tottenham Stadium is in that kind of mode and the Spurs fans are backing the team 100%, no matter if you go 1-0 down, it doesn't matter. Keep backing the team, keep singing up for the lads, and they'll buckle to the pressure. They will. We've seen it before.
100%. Look, as much as they're a great team, they're not Man City. They are not Man City. They are beatable. We can get at them.
As much as they like to lead us to believe that they are Man City.
They're not Man City. This is a team who can be got at. This is a team, Aston Villa showed you can create really good chances against them if you put them under pressure. And in fact, you look at the Wolves game and you look at the Villa game, both those games, they conceded big chances to playing out the back. Both those games, Saliba, they couldn't handle the pressing of Wolves and Villa at some points. They gave Cunha a 1-on-1 from playing out the back, and he should have scored. They gave Watkins 2 chances. The first one was definitely from playing out the back. I think Gabriel got caught, and then Rodgers put in Watkins, and he skewed it wide. So that's that pressure. And then we've got some of the best pressing, if not the best pressing in the league at the moment. If you look at the numbers especially, we're right up there in terms of how many times we win the ball in the opposition third. I think the pressing, anyone who's watched our games this season, whatever you want to say about it, everyone can acknowledge I think the pressing's been really good, and we've won the ball back half the pitch on a number of occasions. And I think if we do that against this Arsenal team, really force the mistakes out of them, especially now they don't have Rice and Odegaard, who I think they're 2 of their most press-resistant players.
And I think our pressing has been really good so far this season as well.
So I'm saying their 2 most press-resistant players are out. I think there could be an opportunity to smell blood here. I really do.
What are you saying? We're going to batter them?
Don't know. Bring him on. Do him.
You look at the way both teams have started the first 3 games, I think both teams have a reason to be a bit disappointed. Spurs in the results that we've got. Only 1 win out of the first 3 games, playing Leicester, a lackluster Newcastle side. We should really, from a performance perspective, we should be sitting here with 9 points. We should be. Arsenal, they've got the results apart from the draw against Brighton. They won their first 2 games. But I think from a performance perspective, they haven't been that great. So I think like Spurs and Arsenal have kind of started the season with opposite problems. Like we're not getting the results, but we're performing well. Arsenal are getting the results, but not performing that well. Who do you think's coming into this game under more pressure?
Who's coming into this game under more pressure? Well, in terms of what they want to achieve, probably Arsenal, because they've just drawn to Brighton. They know when you're battling Man City, even draws probably feel like losses. And, Man City have Brentford this weekend. That's probably going to be 3 points. If with Man City coming up next week, if they drop points again, if they drop points to Spurs, they could easily find themselves, 7 points behind after 5 of 6. Was it 5 games after next week?
Yeah, Man City will be their 5th game of the season.
So they could find themselves 7 points behind after 5 games, which is not a situation you want to be when you're chasing Man City. From Spurs' point of view, obviously, if we get a loss and make it 3 in a row, and with the form that we've shown this calendar year, there is definitely a case you could say Ange will be put under quite a bit of pressure if we lose it, depending how we lose this game, obviously. But if it's a really poor loss and we don't play well, I think there'll be a lot more knives out for Ange, especially in a big game, especially the fact that we lost last year in a game we needed to get, needed to try and stop Arsenal challenging for the title. And, I know we played well and I was really proud of how we played, but, we conceded such sloppy goals and it was really poor from that point of view. And that
not
was
too
really
dissimilar to how we've started the season, right? We've played well, we've just conceded sloppy goals.
Yeah. So I would say who needs the win more? Probably who needs the win more?
There's also another element, because if we do lose this game, how much pressure from sections of the fan base is Ange going to be under?
That's what I said. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, you did say that.
Yeah. So there's another element to that, and I think there's already a bit. I mean, I think at the moment, by and large, the fan base is with Ange and everyone's happy with him in terms of how we're playing, and everyone's, willing to be a bit patient.
There are murmurings, though, aren't there?
There's definitely growing murmurings, definitely, from since the calendar year. We didn't have a good end to last season. The fact that we haven't got off to a flying start results-wise this season as well. There's definitely people starting to question, is Ange football too naive? Is it ever going to work? Is it just too open? Is he not concentrating enough on how many goals we concede, all this kind of stuff. And if we do lose, those noises will definitely grow louder, because it's a very emotional game. Yeah. It's a very passionate game. If there'll be a lot of angry people if we lose this game. So I do think he needs to get a result here. I do think it's a very big, it's at least a draw if we can get something out of the game. And I think that could quieten down a few people. If we get a win, I think everyone becomes a believer again.
In terms of the managers, from both managers' perspective, I do think this is a bigger game for Ange than Arteta.
In terms of the managers,
because Arteta, if Arteta loses this, his job is nowhere near under threat. But I feel like if Ange does lose this, I don't think his job's under threat from Spurs per se, but I do think fans will start getting on his back.
Agreed, but in terms of our objectives, if we lose, we could still definitely make that top 4.
Yeah.
If they lose and then they lose to Man City next week, is that title slipping away already after 5 games? With how good City are, you could make an argument 7 points. How are they going to catch that up?
I love it though. The Arsenal fans, coming into this season, every single one was in unison. This is our year. This is our year. It's written. There is no chance anyone's winning the title but Arsenal. Then the season starts. And they're all like, nah, no chance we can win the league. We're going to lose it. They're actually coming into this a bit scared, the Arsenal fans. I think a lot of them think they're going to come and lose this weekend.
I haven't seen the injuries, I think.
Yeah, 100% is to do with the injuries, but it's also to do with the way they're playing a little bit. And even before the injury, I know Rice is massive for them, but Rice hasn't had a good start to the season. Mm-hmm. He's been one of their poorer players, and I've seen quite a few Arsenal fans say that. Arsenal are not coming into this confident, and I think this is the first North London derby in the last couple of years where they haven't been coming into it confident, because last year they were very confident coming to our stadium. They were confident that they were going to beat us at the Emirates at the beginning of last season, which
they were super confident. They thought they were going to batter us.
Yeah, which they obviously didn't plan out that way, and we actually played the better game than them. The season before that, I believe they came into it pretty confident as well, both games. So this is probably, it's a strange situation because they actually came into the season thinking their name's on the trophy, but now they're not that confident to come in and win the game.
Well, I was watching a bit, what some of what AFTV had to say, and they were still pretty confident in terms of they saying if we play as well as we can, we'll win. No doubt about it. And I would even disagree with that. I think our best, we can give anyone a game, and if they come toe to toe with us, we can go toe to toe with them, and we can give them a game. Now, as I said, last season it was a game of small margins, and they went against us on the day. And it could have been so, Van der Ven had that goal ruled out from offside. We could have had a penalty. All these different, we scored an own goal, to go 1-0 down. All these little margins just went against us that game, despite us probably being the better team on the day. And I really think that if those small margins can go with us this time, there's no reason why, even if Arsenal play well, we can win.
Yeah,
I really believe that.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a mad day on Sunday. It really will, and I'm looking forward to it. In terms of Arsenal, do you feel they've strengthened this summer?
Yeah, they've strengthened. Have they strengthened enough to overtake City? I don't think so, but I think they've strengthened. I think Calafiori is a really good left-back or centre-back. He's obviously also cover for Gabriel. If he gets injured, he can fill in there. And I think at left-back, he's better than Zinchenko. Obviously, they've got Timber there as well, who's back after a long injury. But I think Calafiori is a really big pickup. I think Moreno's a really good midfield pickup as well, especially if you partner him with, I know he's injured as well, but you partner him with Rice and Odegaard. I think that solidifies that midfield even more. I think that's better than, if you've got Rice, Moreno and Odegaard, I think that's better than Partey, Rice and Odegaard. Not much, but I think it's better. So I do think they've improved. I think Arsenal fans would argue, and also Raheem Sterling, obviously we didn't even mention him. I think Raheem Sterling's a really good signing. I think Arteta knows him well. I think in terms of how they play, he's going to pick up a lot of these, goals at the back post. He's a player who, in a system, can work really well. We saw that at Man City. He was a very good system player. We haven't seen
it for a long time, though, with Sterling.
Yeah, well, 2 years, when he's been at Chelsea, who've been an absolute mess. Everyone's been poor, pretty much, apart from Palmer. Everyone's been poor for the last couple of years. And I think they're relying on him to have individual moments, which, when you're relying on Sterling to do that, I think he can be found wanting a bit. But you put him in a system that's functioning and you get him doing certain things, he can be a very, very effective player. He's got a brilliant pace, underrated finishing ability in certain situations, and he's very, very good at arriving at that back post and getting those tap-ins. And if Arsenal have him doing that role, it could be a very good signing. And he just adds that experience. He's won multiple league titles. He's going to come into this team where a lot of these players haven't gone that extra mile, and he has. He knows what it takes. He brings that experience to a young front line as well. And it's been, you say it's been a while. It wasn't that long ago when we played at the. Well, I guess it's been a while, but I'm saying that when we played at the Euros in our home country, I think that was just before he joined Chelsea, was it?
That was 4.5 years ago.
He was brilliant in that tournament. That wasn't was it 4 years ago? 2021. 3 years ago.
We just had the Euros. Oh, it was a year later, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a year later.
3 years ago.
3 years ago, yeah, but, Chelsea have just been a mess. Anyone going into that club will probably struggle when he's gone into it, to be honest. So I still think he's got a lot to offer, and I think that's a really good signing, in my opinion.
What happened in his last year at Man City? I mean, Man City let him go for a reason.
Because he wanted to leave, and I think Man City were moving on from him. But doesn't mean he doesn't have a lot to offer.
I mean, I do think he can punish us on a given day, but I'm not worried about Sterling going to Arsenal at all, to be honest. And I'm looking at the Arsenal squad, and I do think they've made a couple of good signings with Calafiori, Marino, and Sterling could be. But I think numerically they're actually got less players in their squad than they did last season. And they struggled to fight on all fronts last season, going out the Champions League with a bit of a whimper. They did fight Man City all the way till the end in the league, but I don't know if they've got enough numbers, strength and depth to fight on all fronts.
Right, who they lost? They lost Nelson.
They lost Nelson, Nketiah, Smith Rowe, Vieira.
Yeah, but how much were they even playing?
Well, Nketiah played a little bit last season.
Yeah, but Havertz is now a striker.
Smith Rowe, they would have argued, should have had a lot more minutes last. I think Smith Rowe's a very good player.
I know, but they didn't.
Reece Nelson,
he hadn't started a game in 2 years. Reece Nelson's been replaced by Sterling, which is a massive upgrade.
Fabio Vieira actually started the season last year for them, played quite a few minutes at the beginning of the year. Look, these guys, maybe they didn't play too much last season, but that was due to they were getting lucky with injuries throughout the most of the season. If injuries start to hit, then these players, the majority of these players haven't been replaced.
But they've got Calafiore, they've got Moreno, who's injured anyway, but they've got him, who's coming in, and they've got Sterling. I mean, they've lost a few players who barely played, and they've added players who could easily step in now, like first-team quality players they've added. So I think, do they have a squad to compete on all fronts, Champions League or whatever, and go for it? I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but I think in terms of the quality of the squad, I think it's improved.
I just feel like last year they just got very lucky with injuries. I think they haven't had a proper significant injury probably since Saliba, and you're already seeing like 2 injuries now, and they're looking very weak in midfield, in my opinion. So look, Declan Rice isn't injured; he's just suspended. So I guess 2 players out, and they are looking weak in midfield. So you look at Man City, right, who they're competing with. If Rodri hasn't played a minute this season, and they're looking unbelievable, so that just shows you the different levels, doesn't it?
Wasn't the case last year, though, was it, when Rodri was out?
True, they lost a lot of games when Rodri was out.
Yeah, this season he hasn't played a minute, and they haven't missed him at all. Obviously, Gundogan's back now; he's got that experience. So. Look, I think Man City still have a better squad. I still think Man City are the team to beat. They've added Savio as well. So I don't, as I've said, I think Arsenal have improved, but I don't think they've done enough to overcome Man City just yet. And as I say, if they lose this on Sunday and then they got Man City away, they could be 5 points, they could be 7 points behind if Man City win those 2 games. So more probably. Is it more? How many points are they behind now? They're 2 points behind.
Yeah.
So if they lose their next turn, that'll be more. Be 8 points. They'll be 8 points behind if after 5 games, and
they're going to go to Man City and completely park the bus again. Probably nick a draw.
So I'm just saying, if they do end up going 8 points behind, that's almost becoming. It's not insurmountable because they're only 5 games in, but with how relentless Man City can be. That's all of a sudden becoming a very big hill to climb after 5 games already, which is not something that Arsenal would have wanted with all these signings, and after 2 years of just trying to catch Man City and failing. Like the last 2 seasons, they haven't had this big of a gap so early on. So if they didn't do that last 2 seasons and couldn't catch them, how are they going to catch them to 8 points behind after 5 games?
Yeah, especially when second half Man City of the season kick in.